Coming to you live from deep within a icy, muddy, windy, leafy, and maybe possibly koofy radioactive wasteland. We are the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse. Once more, the few, the brave, the bitchy. Once more wading into battle against the Frogger. Well, that works too. Froggy lobster zombie hordes with Fundzerker. Insert number here. Gen Z women are no longer thrilled with sex positivity, so it's no longer feminist. It's now patriarchy.
168.
Yeah, because yesterday
everything I don't like is patriarchy.
Yes, yesterday was 167. And yeah, that is a good alternate title. Everything I don't like is patriarchy. Everything I asked for but decided afterwards that I didn't really want
it. All the negatives of what I asked for are patriarchy.
Yeah.
And that presumes a particular attitude to the world that men should be defined by ameliorating all harms to you.
Yeah, well, no, it is kind of almost true if you actually take the stance that patriarchy is actually women topping from the bottom.
Yeah, which patriarchy is men doing what women say.
Yeah,
well, you did what we said, but there were these negatives, and they're like, "Well, okay, I guess we'll do what you say again."
Yeah, I'm just like, why would men capitulate to women's demands after every single fucking time they do? It's a complaint. I keep getting called back to that interview, and I forget who the fuck was interviewing her. But it was Gloria Steinem, right? And it was about 7-8 years ago, something like that. And the interviewer asks, "Are women still oppressed?" And Steinem says, "Oh, yeah, they're more oppressed than ever." And it's like, how so? And it's like, well, they have to juggle family and work life, and they have to like balance, they have to do a work-life balance, and they feel like they're doing double shifts, and they're very stressed out, and they feel like they have to be breadwinners and all of this stuff. And it's like, but that's what you asked for.
Yeah, that's what you rich women asked for, because I'm pretty sure that non-rich women always had to deal with that. And
non-rich women were like, oh, fuck, if only some dude making $1.25 a year could like freaking marry me and liberate me from working at Tim Hortons.
Yeah, but the thing is that the women of the upper classes that took over those jobs would have probably have elevated men of lower classes to those jobs, and then their women would have also been able to enjoy what philosophers throughout history have enjoyed, which is a lot of leisure time. But no, that was not to be, because patriarchy, I think, not because of the jealousy of elite women.
Because upper class women looked around at their social milieu and they went, "Oh, my husband is a glamorous barrister. Oh, my dad is a glamorous oil magnate. Why can't I do that? Ooh, my brother is a world-renowned scientist. Why can't I do that?" And it's like, yeah, those are freaking glamorous jobs. They're not easy jobs, but they're glamorous jobs, and they're very highly remunerated in many cases. And no freaking working class woman was looking around in her social milieu and going, "Oh, my husband tunnels 100 miles down into the center of the earth to chip coal off of the wall of a tunnel with an axe, a hand axe, and then push it up in a cart. I really wish I wasn't doomed to this domestic drudgery and I could go do what he does."
Well, I mean, society is usually determined by elite women.
Yeah,
and our social landscape is usually determined by them. And
even the idea
that the worst things we ever did was give generations of very wealthy Karens excuses like patriarchy and male privilege and toxic masculinity.
Yeah. No, they invented those excuses. But like even Victorian dads, the idea that Victorian dads were cold and distant and children should be seen and not heard, and they were harsh disciplinarians. And that was all a top down and elite down characterization of working class fathers, right? We're cold and distant, and that basically it was just like, not heard. Oh yeah, no, our men are very, 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 superior to those disgusting,
men over there,
dirty men over there. Yeah, and
a darker hue.
Yeah, no, and diaries of children raised by Victorian fathers at the time suggest completely the opposite, right? Like somebody actually picked through like hundreds of diaries and memoirs from the time, and it's like they had their dads were involved, their dads were hands-on, and not just with the belt. And in fact, their moms were like, "You take this boy and whip his butt," and then the dad would like actually be like, "Okay, I'm gonna take my belt off. I'm gonna hit the bedpost. You scream every time, so she thinks I'm punishing you, right?" So yeah, no, it's like these were affectionate men who cared about their kids' education, their lives, their health, their well-being, all of that stuff, right? And were hands-on parents, but they were denigrated by the upper classes because, dirty, unwashed.
Well, they're working
right?
class. And obviously, they're British thugs. I just, and the other thing is, there is like, this is something Nancy Friday said. I actually sort of respect Nancy Friday. She was a feminist. She did a lot of books on sexuality.
Women's sexual fantasies. One of them got
that was
Canada.
some interesting stuff. But she did say, like, she I think she turned away a bit from at least mainstream feminism, and she said women need to stop projecting their dark side onto men.
Yeah.
And I think that's the idea that the father is uninvolved and a disciplinarian, maybe that's what women sort of wanted the role that the fathers to play.
Just you wait till your dad gets home.
Yeah, exactly. So, this is anyway, we should probably get back to the article, and I'm going to apologize to everyone. I'm actually sick. I don't feel well. I don't think it's the coof. I don't know what is the coof. Like, I'm basically got the symptoms of a typical cold. So I don't think
that's the coof now.
Is it?
May as well be. I
might just have the coof, which I'm a little worried about because I know that coof.
Well, go get it. No, it won't. Go get a rapid antigen test. Test yourself. See if you got the coof, and then if you do, be happy. Because
I just heard that coof comes on like it has a really bad, a really horrible like
in a very small number of cases you can have after effects. Like I had long COVID. I got long COVID from the original gangster, but none of my kids ended up with any kind of fallout from it, and my husband didn't, and then we caught Omicron, and I was fine after that because like I thought it was allergies. It was 2 days of sneezing, and it was only because my husband got tested because he was curious. And
okay. Well, I'm not hugely sick. I've just got like I feel like crap. I think I've got a bit of a fever. My sinuses are bothering me, so I got a bit of a headache and nasal drip. I'm sure you all are loving hearing this.
Yeah, no, she's got boogers, people. Boogers.
If you could see me, you would be able to enjoy my garden, but you can't. All the bats in the cave, but you can't because my camera is thankfully off today.
Well, anyway, what I'm saying is, like Omicron it doesn't tend to go into the deep lungs, and if it doesn't go into the deep lungs, then
it doesn't get into your bloodstream.
It doesn't get into your blood, and then you don't end up with any of the cardiovascular stuff that I had to live with for.
All right. Well, fair enough. So hopefully, I've been basically mainlining echinacea and garlic and vitamin C and oregano and
D and zinc.
Yeah, I already eat crazy amounts of D. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
You have any horse paste lying around?
I will
we have
not
horse
answer that
paste.
question. If
I have
horse
some.
paste.
I have some, but it's old. Like,
Did I have any equine
6 years old.
salve? No. I mean, I don't mean. I meant the original misprint. Did I have any
equine sauce?
Equine sauce.
No. They say it's apple flavored, but it really doesn't taste like apples.
I don't know what kind of freaking apples these people are eating.
Yeah, no. It smells like apples, but it doesn't taste like apples. And to just be clear, I took it when the dog brought scabies into the house. And Canada was the one country in the frickin' world that hadn't approved ivermectin for human use. And I had scabies, and my daughter had scabies, right? And I'm looking at this dog 6 weeks after her one little ivermectin kibble, beefy flavored, right? All her hair's growing back, right? She's not scratching anymore. She's happy as fucking clam, right? I'm bathing in bleach, spraying myself down after I get out of the tub with hydrogen peroxide. I'm drinking borax, right? And it's like it's been 6 weeks and no improvement.
You know,
I'm like, really, horse paste.
Yeah, for scabies, nothing else.
Scabies.
Yeah, for sure. That's what. What did you think I meant? You better do your shill before we get into this article.
Oh geez, I hope we don't get dinged by YouTube for that. We're talking about scabies. That's all we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I also had some river blindness.
Okay, yeah, all right. So we're talking about some serious third world diseases. All right. So if you would like to make sure we can continue to do this work, please go to feedthebadger.com/support. We are in the last leg. I think we have about $1,200 left to go. And I wish I could give you a really energetic shill today, but I just feel like crap. I'll have to go with the arm twisting at the top of the hour. And
okay, just give Allison a break, people.
Yeah.
And start supporting Brian and Hannah, because that's what this is for, right? It's not even for Allison. It's for Brian and Hannah.
Well, I mean, technically it all sort of is for the show, you know?
Well, there's no show without Brian, so...
Yeah, there's just my shorts.
And nobody wants any more of those, so...
Jeez.
I'm just joking. I just don't like the format.
I know.
I hate when you click on a short and you can't... If you pause it, it goes all the way back to the beginning, right? And if you scroll down, it just stops, and then you scroll back up, and it goes back to the beginning. And
everything in the shorts is just a waste of time.
Well, not all. Some shorts are actually quite amusing, but yeah, no. I think YouTube's trying to move in on TikTok.
Yeah,
and
YouTube's probably not going to succeed, and we'll see what happens there. But anyway, so please support the show. It's at feedthebadger.com/support. And if you could just take a moment to put even $5 helps. And I don't even want to say even because I don't want to minimize it. I know that you guys give what you can, and I appreciate it. It's actually, I was thinking about it. It's really remarkable. Even though I panic at the end of every month that, oh my God, we're not going to be able to fund it. You guys have, up to this time, funded it. So
you always come through.
You always come through. So please do come through, feedthebadger.com/support. And in a few minutes, and like at the hour, a little bit past the hour, I'll do the traditional arm twisting. Okay.
Yeah. Brian, call up that feminist wailing tape.
Yeah. No, you know what you should get? You should get Yoko Ono.
Oh God, that one? No.
Like her singing?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll have to go hunt that down. It's probably not hard.
I will hunt.
Yeah. So I got a couple super chows from yesterday that, well, they weren't really, they were Rumble rants, but I put them in here so I can read them because I apologize to NobaFan21. He did send a couple of messages. And I have a super chow, like an actual super chow, just now from someone. So I'm going to read through those really quick. All right, so this is from yesterday. NobaFan21 gives us $1 twice, and he says, I'd love to hear feminists say how the sexual revolution was done by the patriarchy. Well, they do say that. Because there was there's a woman who's doing the rounds right now. She's been like appearing on a lot of like podcasts and talk shows, and I can't remember her name. I could look it up. And she wrote a book. I think it was called how the sexual revolution destroyed women or something, right? And essentially she was arguing that the sexual revolution, despite the fact that it was started by feminists, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, right? Where they basically said, well, men are just going to benefit from this. So obviously they're not going to take any issue with women becoming more sexually active and sex positive, etc. And she is essentially trying to make the argument that it benefits men disproportionately, it harms women disproportionately, and that men probably had a hand in it or planned it or something. This is like one of those things that I gotta look up the woman's name. But I mean, she's been going all over the place, and I would just need to get a moment to find it. Yes,
Rubin.
Huh?
Rubin?
No, Gail Rubin is another monster altogether. She's from the 60s and 70s, and she basically wrote about queer Marxism and sexualizing children through education and stuff like that. It's monstrous. She's monstrous, but that's a different person with a different. I mean, she's probably not sex negative, but only for kids essentially and young girls. All right, so that's. I was just gonna say yes, and then they say NobaFan continues and says they still deny the 19th Amendment was done to tax women. Yeah, well, that's kind of obvious, right? NobaFan21 then gives us another $1 and says, something I don't understand is this idea of hookup lines men can use to woo women. I only heard it working in fiction, but does it work in real life? Is it a forgotten culture? I think that people are just wised up to these things. I don't know that hookup lines necessarily work, but I do think they can be good icebreakers if you're self-aware of what you're doing and it's clever and it's funny. I think that a girl with a good sense of humor can appreciate.
If it's a little self-deprecating, it can't be a lot self-deprecating. It has to be a little self-deprecating, but but it can actually, you can charm a woman into starting a conversation.
Yeah.
So with a clever line, but there's no guaranteed pickup line that's going to work.
No, and there's no system, there's nothing like that. But you're basically showing her what kind of personality you have, how witty you are, and that's it. Because she knows you're giving her a line, and you know that you're giving her a line, so may as well make it fun. Stringy Boogers gives us $5. This is today.
Oh, Allison, why would you donate to Honey Badger Radio?
And Stringy Boogers says, may your boogers be goopy yet strong enough to be pulled out like a string. Well, that's not disgusting.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh my God. I'm going to find out who you are. I know exactly who you are. Oh my God.
Oh, that's nasty. The only thing nastier than that is discovering 3 months later that your kids have been picking their nose in bed and wiping their boogers on the wall.
Oh.
Yeah, and now you have to you scrub it off yourself. It's like, why don't you just wipe them on your fucking pajamas or socks, and then I can throw them in the washing machine? Like, what the wall, really?
Well, I guess they wanted to create a garden.
Like a mosaic on the wall.
Yeah, like one of those, when I was a kid, you could make those rock gardens.
Yeah, or like a macaroni art project.
Yeah, exactly. Except, they forgot to put the macaroni in, so it would
stick to the wall. Nothing but glue, no macaroni.
Yeah,
on the wall there.
That needs to be mosaic. No macaroni, only glue.
Jesus Christ!
This article, no macaroni, only glue.
Yeah, really, that's what this article is. It's only glue, no macaroni.
Okay. Let's do some more. Actually, I do have a thank you, and we did get a super chat through the main channel. People are doing that now. Oh, Schadenfreude Studios gave us $25. So thank you, Schadenfreude. And again, if you would like to join our very generous supporters, it's feedthebadger.com/support. And I will do some arm twisting shortly.
Deadly Raver, right? Deadly Raver gives us $5 on the main channel and says, "I never catch you guys live anymore. Have some bucks for the Halloween stash fund." That reminds me, there is a chance that trick-or-treaters are going to come, and I'm going to have to go get the door.
Ooh.
So if I mean, it's like right outside. So, but I hope that we do, because it does look like there's a lot of kids out that are dressed up. Even though it's rainy over here. But
yeah, I hope we do too, because it's sort of horrible. Like, it's been a total wasteland the last couple of years.
Oh man,
well,
no!
You guys do live in a wasteland.
I'm hoping nobody shows up. I was thinking of putting a COVID house sign on the front fence post
to drive the kids away.
Yeah, to basically be like, no, we're not giving out candy. I don't have any candy. I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe my son has some candy. I know he has like a bag of chow mein noodles, dried chow mein noodles. So, I guess we could sprinkle some of that over top of some kids. But yeah, no, I can't be arsed to do it. And no, because for the 8 kids that might come by on a given night in my neighborhood. I don't live in the best neighborhood. It's actually pretty horrible. So, there's a bag of popcorn on the floor of the front seat of one of my cars, and I don't know where it came from. Half-eaten bag.
Okay,
right? So obviously, some people stopped and took a break to eat some popcorn in my car while it was parked in my driveway.
Or you have a poltergeist.
It's just like I'm just like, it wouldn't even be a brand that I would buy, and so I can't even say it was one of my kids, because it's not a brand that I would buy, and so I'm just like, and they root through my freaking glove boxes. People do, and if cans you get money for. You could carry them out in bags. You'd load them up into the car. You can squeeze a whole bunch of them in. You drive to the depot. You get a whole bunch of money, right? Beer bottles, totally different thing. It's like, oh, I'm carrying $2.40 worth of bottles each trip from the front door to the car, right? Multiple trips. You load them up, you take them in, you get $12. You're like, oh, woo, right? Let's party like it's 1999, right? But you can't leave them out, right? If you leave a bag of cans in your backyard, it's going to get stolen, right? But if you leave a case of bottles out in your backyard, you're going to wake up the next morning and they're going to be smashed all over your fucking driveway. Because even the vagrants and the hobos.
This is going to be chaos today because Skippy...
even the vagrants and the hobos don't want to take in bottles. I don't understand what it is with you freaking elitists who are like, oh, I only drink beer out of bottles. Every alcoholic beverage should be sold in Tetra Paks.
Wait. What's a Tetra Pak?
Like a juice box.
Oh, okay. So like you can just like pop a straw in there and...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Wow. We just had some trick-or-treaters, and the dog was not a fan.
Yeah, no, the dog is never a fan of trick-or-treaters.
It was like strangers coming to the house. You're probably... Yeah. You did get trick-or-treaters, though.
Yeah, we got one. I'm like, incredible. It's not even 4 here, so that's... They're really on the ball this year.
That's right. Well, they're probably going early because it's going to get...
dark, yeah.
And cold. So
okay, so if you guys hear like a dog attempting to tear down the walls of Jericho, that is Skippy indicating that he's not impressed with small people in strange costumes.
Yeah,
or any people at all, probably.
No, he likes people. I don't like. The thing is that generally, if we let him go to the people, he probably would stop barking and then sniff them and lick them.
Yeah, no, it's like when people come up, when people park in front of the house and then they come up the walk and the dog's she's flipping her shit. She's just like absolutely losing it, right? At the window, she's like barking her head off. And then they come in and then she's like, oh, we're friends.
Yes.
You're in the house. This is great. Can I get to know you? I need to sniff you all over.
Yeah. No, he doesn't. He barks, but if they come within, and if he figures out that we're okay with them,
yeah,
then he's like, yeah, no, you're cool. He's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, we should let's get one paragraph done.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But the idea. Okay, so we just left off with these days, though, most sex positive advocates stop well short of one thing Ruben did: defending adults who want to have sex with minors.
Mm-hmm.
Most, not all, most. But the idea that outer limit sex still needs to be liberated seems strange to certain Zoomers, whose world is one of queer liberation, kink talk, teen Vogue guides to anal sex and hookups. Oh my god, teen Vogue guides to anal sex, Jesus. OnlyFans, InstaFeet, sex-positive YouTubers like Lacey Green, TV shows like Bonding and Sex Education, and of course, all manner of freely available porn. On TikTok, I see a lot of people talking about what they do with their partners, like specific sex acts, Katie said. Quote, I see a lot of people talking about sex work, and especially with OnlyFans, really glamorizing it. You see such a huge difference between older generations, an older generation that has a lot of baggage about sex and repressed sexuality, quote, Hughes said, and then a younger generation who've seen it before on the internet or don't have that repression inside them. I don't know. I'm thinking that Katie has some repression. She's seen it before. She was like really uncomfortable, had to get herself all freaking hammered in order to actually go through with a lot of these hookups. One example of this change came earlier this year when actor Armie Hammer was accused of rape and physical and emotional abuse by 2 women. Leaked screenshots of explicit DMs that Hammer had allegedly sent he denied they were legitimate. Revealed sexual fantasies about rape, knives, torture, and most notoriously, cannibalism. Several major liberal publications made a point of refusing to treat his sexual preference as funny, disgusting, weird, or automatically harmful.
Okay, so they're fantasies.
Yeah, but the liberal publications made a point of not treating it as funny, disgusting, weird, or automatically harmful.
Was he a liberal?
Well, he was an actor.
Arnie Hammer? Yeah,
Armie
probably.
Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's just like, so he's having fantasies about cutting people up, eating people, torturing people, raping people, and these were not condemned by liberal outlets, and they weren't even ridiculed as ridiculous, right? As
there's also
absurd.
an indication that he denied they were legitimate. So
yeah, but you have liberal outlets not actually saying, well, even if they were legitimate, right?
Yeah, I got
that would be laughable and stupid, or that would be harmful, or that would be like insane. And it's like the map thing on freaking Twitter. It's gross. I'm sorry.
This is the first thing that comes up when I do Armie Hammer politics. Armie Hammer calls out Marvel executives' Trump contributions. Okay, well, there's your solution. It has nothing to do with whether or not stuff. This was a liberal guy. They were likely playing cover for their tribe. I'm not saying that other groups don't do that, but that's generally what they do.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if there's no indication, is there anything that said that it was definitively proven that he'd even sent this stuff?
Well, no, I don't know, but let's move on.
Yeah.
Quote, "The problem is not that he has a cannibalism kink," end quote, Nicole Froyo wrote at Bitch Media. Quote, "It's the way he crossed boundaries again and again, coercing his victims into engaging with his fetishes."
What victims?
So go ahead.
Apparently the
I'm just
two
asking,
women.
How were they victimized?
Well, because he
said stuff.
He texted stuff to them.
Allegedly. So we're not going to assume that this actually happened just because we read it in an article on the media.
And engaging with his fetishes, that just means basically like, oh, you gonna listen to me talk dirty to you, bitch, about cannibalism.
I don't know. Like, that doesn't add up to me.
I'm just imagining the scene in my mind. And
I would so love to eat your pussy. And when I say eat, I mean with fava beans and a nice Chianti.
How did they not laugh? If this is true, like could you imagine that? I'd like to talk about my cannibalism fantasies. No.
You know what? Even if this is...
There ain't nothing that gets me off better than thinking about eating a titty.
Mm-hmm. It's so fatty.
It's totally Atkins.
Yeah, it's totally like that's keto. That's keto right there. That's safe.
Yeah, it's keto. Oh God! And also, I think is eating humans also vegan because you're not eating animals? I mean, because the reason why they don't want you to eat animals is because they're eating animals, right?
But when you eat animals, all you're eating is processed vegetables.
Yeah.
That is like the extreme. That is the extreme carnivore religious position there, Karen.
No, it's like all you're eating is processed plant-based foods.
And when you're eating
an animal. when you're eating an animal.
Yeah, and when you're eating humans.
That too.
All right. Okay, so let's finish that paragraph, I suppose.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Okay. Rolling Stone and Slate interviewed self-professed cannibalism fetishists, all of whom echoed Froyo's point. Cosmopolitan enlisted a fetish educator to explain how a consensual cannibalism kink would work. Quote, instead of shaming people's fetishes, she cautioned, we should be teaching them to share their interest in a way that doesn't harm others.
Okay, brain is broken now.
Well, okay, I can get it. Instead of eating people, you should just like talk about it and masturbate to it and like talk about it to some girl who's really yucked out and feels tortured and is grossed out about it, and nobody has to die.
Well, but here's the other thing. Like what I've noticed about this article is they're always keeping, aside from Ruben, who apparently likes children and is a woman, they seem to be keeping the really disgusting stuff to men, or allegedly in this case.
Yeah,
because you can actually go on a art forum called Y Gallery and find. I don't recommend you do this.
I'm not gonna.
You can find vor that is aimed at a female audience. That's what it's called. Cannibalism, sexual cannibalism, aimed at a female audience. So there are women who like this, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that because this is gross, and we want to associate sex positivity with men because men are gross. All right.
Yeah. Sex positivity has a dedicated opponent in Louise Perry, a UK-based activist against sexual violence.
Oh, that's the woman I was going to mention. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, then mention her now. Well, she's relevant.
Go ahead. No, Karen. Finish your quote, and then I'll tell you about Louise Perry, because that's the woman I was trying to remember.
Quote, sex-positive ideology liquefies all norms, she told BuzzFeed News. Quote, leaving only the principle of consent, and then insists that every consensual sexual act is necessarily good, refusing to recognize that consent is not binary. It is often subtly coerced to varying degrees. End
Okay,
quote.
she's not a sexual violence activist. She's an against consent activist. This is the type of woman who literally wants to make it legally impossible for a woman to consent to sex.
Well, no, I can understand her point that some sexual acts are actually harmful. Like you can say, well, I'm for the right of people to put whatever drug they want in their own body because they have a right to bodily autonomy. They have the right to do that. And so we should legalize or decriminalize all drugs, right? But you can still say, but that's definitely not good for you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like...
So, I mean, she's kind of got a point.
So here's the thing. Louise Perry, she's been doing the rounds and appearing on other people's podcasts. She was on Lotus Eaters. She was on Chris Williamson. And her book, The Case Against the Sexual Revolution, this basically goes back to the thing that I was saying about how the sexual revolution is being blamed on patriarchy. And that because the presumption is that men benefit more from, or benefited more from the sexual revolution than women, even though the truth is a very small percentage of men might have benefited more if sex
they were with that in the first place.
Well, you know, the Genghis Khans out there surely benefited more.
Yeah, if that's really what they wanted, because, you know, a Giga Chad could also just want a nice girl, but he doesn't really have a choice because he has to play, or he feels as though he has to play in this modernized, liberated sexual arena, right? And so Louise Perry said, this is her new book. I'm going to read the little Amazon blurb. Ditching the stuffy hang-ups and benighted sexual traditionalism of the past is an unambiguously positive thing. So, right off the bat, whatever we abandoned when the sexual revolution started was, easily, unambiguously bad. The sexual revolution has liberated us to enjoy a heady mixture of erotic freedom and personal autonomy, right? Wrong, argues Louise Perry in her provocative new book. Although it would be neither possible nor desirable to turn the clock back to a world of pre-60 sexual mores, because apparently those were the worst, she argues that the amoral libertinism and callous disenchantment of liberal feminism and our contemporary hypersexualized culture represents more loss than gain. The main winners from a world of rough sex, hookup culture, and ubiquitous porn, where anything goes and only consent matters, are a tiny minority of high-status men, not the women.
You go.
Yeah, not the women forced to accommodate the excesses of male lust, because apparently they don't have control. While dispensing sage advice to the generations paying the price for these excesses, she makes a passionate case for a new sexual culture built around dignity, virtue, and restraint. This countercultural polemic from one of the most exciting young voices in contemporary feminism, because she is a feminist, should be read by all men and women uneasy about the mindless orthodoxies of our ultra-liberal era.
Well, she did acknowledge that the sexual revolution benefited a tiny minority of high status men. It harmed women, and I think it has. Well, I think
I would argue it hasn't. I'm gonna go out on a limb here, but you can finish, and I'll make my argument.
And it has left a bunch of non-high status men kind of out to dry, or like picking through leftovers.
All right, this is all nonsense. Not necessarily what you're saying, Karen, but what she's saying is nonsense. This is entirely driven by women.
Of course it is.
It is entirely driven by women. It's entirely driven by their base, and not necessarily all women, but the women who go on Tinder and select men based on their physical appearance, no consideration with their actual what they say about themselves, and then sleep with them. This is entirely based on completely animalistic urges that women have, and it is driven by women. So these men are getting women. Why? Because women are choosing them.
Well, the idea that women don't have animalistic urges is ridiculous, right?
Yes, they have animalistic urges.
Yeah, the idea that men do have a higher sex drive. I'll give that one to the evolutionary psychologists and to the feminists.
Yeah, but
right?
I was thinking about
that. They actually have a higher level of restraint, self-restraint around.
I was thinking about that. I think you'll like
around
this.
Their sexual urges.
It doesn't. The fact that men have a higher sex drive just means they're more incentivized to get consent, which means they'll jump through more hoops.
Yeah.
Okay. So if a guy is like is told, well, you got to climb Mount Everest to get some, he'll be like, I'm almost horny. I'm horny enough to do that.
Yeah. No. It's like Warren Farrell always said. If women collectively decided that the most attractive thing about a man was his ability to walk on his hands, guess what? All men would be doing.
Yeah. So there's no connection between having a higher sex drive and necessarily raping. Rape is. This is the one thing I wish people would get through their skull. Rapists, male rapists, we won't talk about female rapists, but male rapists are not normal. Okay? No. They are a very small subcategory of men, a subcategory of a subcategory. And the overarching subcategory is that they have cognitive deficits related to impulse control. Yeah. Right? That's genetic. So genetically, they are distinct from normal men. So they don't actually achieve certain aspects of what I would call secondary sexual characteristics for adult men, which is an adult man's impulse control, which manifests in stoicism, which is another thing that's shame, but regardless. Yeah. So they don't attain that.
Well, it's toxic.
They're retarded in a non-mature masculine state. And then on top of it, they have also been usually sexually abused or otherwise abused. So we're talking about a subcategory of very distinct individuals. Okay? Very damaged, not just physically damaged, but also mentally damaged individuals. Okay? Their behavior has nothing to do with the average man. So to say that the average man and increase the sex drive of the average man is going to lead him to rape, no. Categorically, no. What it's going to lead him to is to be able to tolerate more hoops getting to the point of having sex.
Yeah.
You know, like what will a woman tolerate? She wants to swipe right on, a Jason Momoa lookalike, and if he isn't there, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm not even waiting.
She's not gonna put any effort in.
No.
Yeah. So
it's like this doesn't correlate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No.
Go ahead.
Anyway, it's okay. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was gonna read super chats and super.
Oh, okay.
Chows, so
all right.
Super chows. Go ahead. I'm gonna get myself some more ecology.
I have a super chow from Betty Adams Over Analyzes, who gives us $10 and then $10 again, I think. And says, donated towards the fundraiser. I see. And she says, "Hey there, love what you do. No comment, but could you mention my book, Humans Are Weird, Let's Work It Out? It's in its last 12 hours on Indiegogo. Short, absurd science fiction. What will our little green friends think of us? Humans are weird, let's work it out." Thank you, Betty Adams.
Yeah, okay. So
for promoting your book.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, if you're listening, go over to Indiegogo and take a look at Humans Are Weird, Let's Work It Out, and support it if you think it's worthwhile. And
then Albatross gives us $5 and says, "Happy Halloween, everyone," and puts a bat emoji, an ogre emoji, a skull and crossbones, a zombie, and a jack-o'-lantern. So thank you, Albatross.
No clown?
Yeah. What a fusion of emojis.
That's a little too scary. I don't know if we're ready for that. Yeah, I don't know if we're ready for that. So that's it for, well, let me just check. Oh no, on Rumble, NobaFan21 gives us $1 and says, "I'm curious how feminists will try to convince the public how the free love sexual revolution of the 60s was invented by men and not pushed by prominent feminists."
They'll just say it and everybody will agree with it.
They'll just say it and people will just believe it. And they'll say, "We never meant for this to happen. Men must have ruined our plans." NobaFan21, go ahead, Allison.
No, if you have an additional super chat, please go to it.
I have two more because he keeps sending them. NobaFan gives us another Rumble rant and says, "I remember hearing feminists claim women were kept from dirty jobs like sewer workers and coal mining, but I never hear feminists push for women doing these same jobs." Well, I think that, they weren't kept from them. It's just that women had a lot on their plate already, as mothers and stuff. So,
yeah.
And if anything, men were trying to say, "Look, this work is not fun." And I think that most women were like, "Yeah, you're right, it's not." It's only when
backbreaking.
Only when the office jobs started to rise up, right? I think that's when women were like, "Oh, I want to do that. I want to sit in an office, air conditioned,
or do retail,
World Wars."
Or do retail or whatever, and not go to war. Yeah, that sounds good. So
you didn't see a lot of we want men's role during the Great Depression or World War I or World War II.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cherry pick these things.
Exactly.
They do. The reason why I was bringing it up is because I don't think that I don't actually think that if this is benefiting a small minority of dark triad men who are attractive, I suppose. Those men are not fundamentally, I don't think they're really that, you don't want to necessarily benefit those men.
No, you don't. No, but the thing is I think that the feminists of the 60s and 70s, it was part of their ideology that men and women were basically interchangeable, and if you just treated them the same, they would behave the same. And so Yeah, no, and so they basically thought that, okay, so if we throw out the rule book and everything is just a free for all, people are going to pair up, they're going to do it consensually, and ugly men are going to get laid, and unattractive women are also going to get laid, and everybody's going to get laid, and it's just going to be like everybody having sex with everybody else, and it's just going to be so much fun, right? And it's like, no, you have a very, very small percentage of men who are physically attractive enough and psychologically a certain way.
Well, actually, now with Tinder, they don't even have to have any kind of social skills. Oh, but you mean psychologically, as
psychologically a certain way, wanting a certain thing, which is sex, right? You have those guys, yeah, and then you have women, and probably like the 1s, 2s, and 3s aren't getting any. The 4s, 5s, and 6s are, getting something, but it ain't great for the price. And then you've got the top tier super attractive or like fake attractive women, the ones who really doll themselves up and everything, who are really cashing in. And so I mean, like, the sexual revolution, it's about dark triad males and OnlyFans. And both are preying on everybody else of the opposite sex.
Yeah, but what I would say is I push back on this idea that women aren't getting something out of this. Because in order to believe that, you have to say, well, women don't have animalistic urges, and they do. Like, I mean, I think most women have some fantasies that involve being ravished by someone who just, doesn't care.
He can't help himself.
And
I'm so attracted to you that I can't help myself.
Or even having multiple partners and stuff like that. Like this is I think this is fairly common for women. It's just animalistic. You either indulge it reasonably or you just don't, if you want to pursue the route of more stable relationships on average. But to say that this situation on Tinder isn't driven by women and doesn't benefit women is ridiculous. Because it does. Because they get to have access to the sexuality of men they would never have access to in any other situation. And these are men who are more attractive than they are.
Yeah.
And, okay, I'm gonna help Jonathan with the trick or treat coming in.
Okay.
I'm gonna read another super chat.
Okay.
All right. So Nick Dunny gives us $7.99 Australian. Thank you, Nick, and says, I've heard someone in the United States Senate is trying to have women sign up for the draft like men. I believe that, that's conversation that conversation is happening in a way. I think it's good. I don't think it's likely to go through, and I hope it doesn't. I think that the solution is not to draft women. I think that...
Well, it's been... okay, no. The solution, Brian, is to spend the next 100 years drafting only women, and then we can end the draft.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's, we can do that if we want to lose all our women because women suck at war. But like, what?
Like, the entire argument just boils down to how dare we inconvenience women. And, like, that's all it's ever boiled down to is how dare we inconvenience women. And so, because there's always been roles in the military that didn't involve going and doing, like, combat on the front lines and stuff like that. There's always been support roles and stuff like that in the military.
Sure.
But they've just never been willing to draft women.
Right. But even those, like, non-combat roles... they're pretty safe, so they're not really involving the same amount of risk. But
but that's why I'm saying the only reason to exclude women from the draft is how dare we inconvenience women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you even look at the things that could get a man exempted from the draft. Oh, if he's married.
Mm-hmm.
If he's married, he doesn't have to get drafted. Because it would inconvenience his wife.
Right, of course.
Right, so it's just like I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's include women in the draft. Let's go ahead and do that. I don't think there's going to be a draft in the United States anytime soon, but why not? Why not throw the women in, and they can do like, because they're 17% of the U.S. military already anyway. So obviously they can actually fulfill a significant number of duties.
Yeah, they can definitely nurses, doctors, that kind of stuff, EMT. It's something really interesting that you
engineers,
never hear about. Did you know that Madame Curie actually had a mobile X-ray, like a studio for soldiers in World War I? She created this van that had a mobile X-ray machine in it, so that they could correctly diagnose injuries during World War I.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, you never hear about stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
really cool.
she was actually pretty cool. She was one of those people that, like, one of those women that I'm like, okay, that was a woman who actually, did something, and then she got credit for doing it, and I didn't go back and do the research and find out that it was just some rich woman who was sick of her maids and kitchen staff breaking her dishes, so she hired a bunch of engineers to make her a dishwasher, and then she claimed the patent for it.
Yeah. Brian, there's a little bit of an echo on your end, so maybe
I'll just mute when I'm not talking.
Yeah, perhaps that might work. So, shall we do another paragraph?
Oh, God. Perry, who used to work in a rape crisis center, now campaigns with the UK-based We Can't Consent to This, which draws attention to the rough sex defense, namely when men who kill or seriously injure women claim the victim consented to the violence during sex. Quote, to date, every defendant relying on this defense tactic has been male, Perry said. The mainstreaming of BDSM has led to more and more defendants successfully using this tactic, not only in the UK, but worldwide. We Can't Consent to This has documented almost 60 cases where men who killed women raised a defense of this nature.
Yeah, and I looked at that website. Yeah, you have 60 cases where they raised the defense, and the vast majority of them they did.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? She said to date, every defendant relying on the defense has been male, right? Yeah, because if you are actually a dom, a female dom or a female switch, somebody who can do either sub or dom, you're like getting paid top premium at the freaking bondage dungeon because they can't find enough female doms. There's a huge market. There's a huge demand for female doms, right? There's just no supply because women don't want to do that. Women don't want to do the slappy. They want to, and they're certainly not going to do it for free, right? They want to get the slappy.
Okay. Sorry, I had to go deal with trick-or-treaters and the dog.
But women don't want to be dominatrixes, right?
No?
They don't. They do it
but
for
here's
pay.
The thing. What women want is irrelevant. I mean, if you're a man listening to this, don't be an idiot. Keep your dignity. When they ask for things like slappy slappy or chokey chokey and you're not into it, say no. Even if you are into it, realize that if anything bad happens, it's your ass on the line.
Yeah.
And I looked at this page and I'm like, how do you know that these men weren't actually engaging in consensual activity? How do you even know the autoerotic asphyxiation that these women engaged in, they didn't do to themselves?
Yeah.
You don't. So if you're a man and your woman wants anything violent, anything dangerous, you say no. And you say no because it's my ass on the line if it goes south.
Yeah, like I can see if you're in a relationship that's based on knowing the other person and trust, and you're both sober, I can see maybe engaging in some light hair pulling or something like that.
Yeah, if you know the woman,
smacking.
She's a woman who takes responsibility for herself. Yeah. Maybe that's a bit more safe, but don't do it with a
never with a fucking stranger. Jesus,
don't do
Christ.
it in a hat. Don't do it in a box.
Yeah,
don't do it with a fox. Just don't. But the other thing I wanted to say is I have never heard of a man say that he fantasizes about choking women. Never. Well, maybe you have, Karen. I haven't.
Well, I'm with a man who occasionally gets a little rough in the bedroom.
Yeah. But
and he's very large. You've seen him.
Yeah.
He's very large. And I'm quite small by comparison. But I've never actually been hurt. So, and it's because he's in control of himself, and
But the thing is that what I'm imagining is that this is BD and S&M scenes. Yeah. They are potentially dangerous. That's the nature of the beast. As autoerotic asphyxiation, that is potentially dangerous. And if you're a man, your ass is on the line. You might end up doing, you might end up going to jail for the rest of your life for consensual activity that she even initiated. Maybe she even put the noose around her own neck. But you're done. You're it. That's it. This defense doesn't work. That's what she's not saying. This defense rarely works. And I imagine when it does work, the actual evidence of the case is incontrovertible. So don't do it. And furthermore, I don't know why men are doing this, because aside from your partner, for the most part, I've never heard men who actually express a desire to do this kind of thing compared to the amount of women that I have heard have expressing a desire to have it done to them. So I'm just saying, if you're a guy who does this to please your woman or the woman, stop. Like, get some fucking dignity. Don't put your ass on the line for women like that.
Okay, I'm having a problem with this fucking website because there's I just closed an ad, but it's still leaving the ad window blocking the next paragraph. So if one of you wants to read the next paragraph.
I shall go to it. He's actually been a fairly good boy. First,
while you're doing that, I'm going to read the last Rumble rant I got. So, where was I? Nobafan21 gives us $1 and says, cannibalism, bringing new meaning to eating a girl out. I wonder if the same applies for giving head. All right, thank you for that. Very classy.
Just ask Catherine Q. Becker.
Very classy.
Oh, wait,
all right.
She didn't cook it first. She just threw it down the garbage disposal. Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. In Perry's view, this campaign highlights the practical problems that occur when consent is the only sexual norm left standing. If it's legally possible to consent to serious violence, then the task that the prosecution is faced with is to prove beyond reasonable doubt that there was no consent.
Yeah.
Which is an inherently difficult task because either the victim is dead and can't testify, or you have a he said, she said scenario with no other witnesses, she said. Not only would the courts have to be sure that the defendant committed the violent act, they would also have to be sure that the victim wasn't asking for it. And I noticed in all of her examples where the defense is raised, almost invariably it doesn't work. So it's likely that the likely scenario is that these guys did have consent, and they were convicted anyway.
Yeah.
If it's legally possible to consent to serious violence, okay, so I'm guessing that what she's saying is that the government should put in laws to restrict women's freedom.
And also the government should put in laws to eliminate boxing and football and mixed martial arts and hockey and
sports.
Yeah, and the draft.
Oh God! Like seriously. So essentially, her solution: the government should decide when women and in what circumstances women can consent. Okay, so what are you arguing here, Perry? More patriarchy, more government control over what women can and cannot. More government control over women's freedoms. And then in a couple generations, are you going to blame men for that again?
Yeah, of course you will.
I mean, if you, I've said
be like women are repressed.
I've said this. Yeah, it's so freaking hilarious because it seems to be a cycle. We're repressed. Okay, we will stop preventing you from doing these things. Oh man, these things were bad. Wow, men did this to us.
Why did you let me do that? Right? This is okay. My stepson Christopher, rest his soul. Okay, he when he was 7, maybe 8. Okay, he was out in the woods because they lived on an acreage. He was out in the woods with his brother, who was older, 4 years older, and they're hanging out and just goofing around. And Christopher found a piece of lumber with a rusty nail sticking out the top of it, and he was like, "Watch how strong my rubber boots are," right? And he stands on the nail on one foot. And then Matt is like, I don't think you should do that. And he's like, no, watch me. And then he like uses his other foot to start spinning pirouettes on this rusty nail. And then boom, goes through his boot and his foot comes out the top of his boot. And then he looks at Matt and he's like, why did you let me do that? And Matt's like, I told you not to do it. Told you it was a bad idea.
Okay, so here we go. Here we are watching new patriarchy forming in real time, advocated for by feminists.
Oh.
Okay, so the previous patriarchy was like, you know what, women, don't do these things. These things, you won't like them when you do them. And they're like, no, you're repressing and oppressing. You're keeping us from being free. And then here we are 2 generations later. Why did you let us do that? You're repressing us by making us free. So repress
you're forcing us. It away. You're forcing us to do things that we don't want to do because of cultural pressure.
Oh, God.
To be sexual.
God,
in this anything goes culture, and it's just like, Jesus Christ, make up your minds, ladies.
Tinder. Like, you don't want to have random sex with hot, sexy strangers. Stop, delete your Tinder app. If you don't want to take responsibility for why you're doing that, delete your Tinder app.
Like, I don't understand how, like, we have, and I kind of do understand how we have an entire generation of people who do not understand cause and effect. They do not know how to measure risk. They do not know how to actually be vigilant rather than apprehensive, right? So you got this entire generation of young women who are like highly anxious, right? They're anxious about what other people think of them. Like, I'm not having sex, right? Like, everybody's looking at me funny because I'm not having sex. Oh, now I'm having sex and it scares me, so I have to drink a whole bunch in order to like reduce my inhibitions. And oh my God, and now I had sex and now I'm ruined and it's like, it's horrible and I hate it and whatever because I had a bad experience and whatever. And it's like, I understand why this is happening in this generation because they're being raised in a culture that says anything goes, but they're also being raised in a culture where their parents have shielded them from the consequences of their mistakes.
Why would you feel?
This is something that I never did with my kids. I never net nannied them, like people put an internet nanny on their computer, their kids' computers, and like helicopter parented them and like defended them from like, the teacher was mad at my kid. I'm going to go rip a strip off that teacher who yelled at my kid. No, it was just like, yeah, no, you know what you did, right? You won't do it again, right? I was a very big fan of natural consequences. If you ran out if you were my kid and you ran out into the street, right, into the road, I would grab you by the freaking scruff and whoop your butt. Okay? Because the natural consequences of doing that, of continuing to do that, were a little extreme. Getting hit by a car, a little bit more severe than a spanking. But you wanted to touch a hot stove? Go ahead. Live with the blister.
Karen's parenting strategy.
Yeah, no, learn from your own fucking mistakes. Like, live with the consequences. I'm not coming to your defense. I'm not going and knocking on somebody's door because you had some freaking disagreement with some other kid. Like,
this is definitely like the Katie girl from the beginning. Was she over sheltered because
she was wrapped in fucking bubble wrap? I guarantee you, she was like, ooh, she grew up in a household where mom and dad like basically scheduled out every single hour of her day. Ooh, ballet, and then it's like, ooh, math tutoring, right? Okay, and all of that, and then she went to school every day, and they were like, everybody's smart. Everyone is smart. Everyone is special. Everyone gets a trophy. Nobody gets it. We don't give out Fs around here, right?
There are no consequences.
No consequences for anything they do, right? And then she goes to university, and her parents, who are no longer there to shelter her, are not around to protect her, to like basically tell her you're not going to that party, right? And the universities have gotten rid of the in loco parentis philosophy, right? It used to be that the university was held responsible for the safety of university students as if they were parents. Not anymore.
At least not
anymore.
Well, I think they do with the sexual assault or sexual victimization. But I just wanted to say, like, this is, if you look at what these women are saying and advocating for, they're basically advocating for legal restrictions on women's freedoms. That's what they're doing. They're advocating for police making determinations. Like, for example, the Petico case, like feminists, I saw them in the comments. They're advocating for a situation where a policeman usually can step into a situation and say, no, you lose your autonomy, lady. You now are our ward.
Yeah.
Because we suspect that you are a domestic violence victim. So you become our ward. We tell you where do you go now until we have determined that you are either given to your father to take care of, or alternatively to a man who we judge as responsible. Like, do you realize that's what you're doing? Because that's the only solution here. If you cannot stomach the fact that if women have the freedom to seek out rough sex, some will die in the process, just like men who are submissive, some die. I don't know why women don't use it. Probably because they don't have to. But
yeah.
The overall point is, if you can't stomach the consequences of giving women freedom, then don't complain when it gets taken away. Don't look in the past and say, oh, what a horrible patriarchy women lived under. Maybe those women didn't want the consequences of particular freedoms. You know, just like you're demonstrating you don't want. Like, literally, there's feminists saying and promoting an attitude in which they're going to strip away women's freedoms in order to preserve their safety. And I literally said this, like, I knew what I said a decade ago, or maybe it was less than a decade. People were like boggling. We're like, well, I don't understand how feminism is like the Taliban.
we're putting women back into the harem.
Yeah,
no, you and I were discussing
Taliban
that
because they have political control. They are more motivated by not being able to stomach the consequences of women's freedom. So they're going to do things like what Perry is apparently advocating for, is that the government constrain how women can give consent, so that women can't give consent under certain circumstances. And the petticoat situation, they're going to make it so that policemen can go up to a woman who they suspect is being domestically abused and simply say, well, your bodily autonomy, your right to go where it's gone. Now you are our ward. We tell you where to go. We tell you how long you're allowed to be there until we bring you back to your father if you have one. Or maybe we'll have to assign a man to be your ward. Like, this is going back. Like, literally, we are watching feminists take us back to patriarchy.
Well,
and my point is, when you look back in history and you say, oh, look at all, remember this process. Do not blame it on men.
Well, what's frustrating is, to me, is that if you just actually sat down with your daughters and said, okay, here's what's safe, here's what's not, right? Like, grow a brain and use it, and don't do stupid shit. Like, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? And that's all you really have to do with your kids. Show them that if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? And you won't have this issue with Katie, deciding she was going to play a bunch of stupid games and then decide she didn't like the prizes because they were like bags of poop.
Allison, do you have to do any thank yous or arm twisting? She may have stepped away to talk to
deal with trick-or-treaters.
Sorry about that, guys. I do have some thank yous to give. Also, I didn't actually hear what you had to say. Sorry about that, Karen.
No, it's just, you just have to teach your kids, like, if you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, right? There are natural consequences to your decisions, and I won't always be there to protect you from those. So,
gotcha.
you need to actually learn how to make good decisions for yourself, and then you won't have these problems. But and like I said in the last episode, I think there's a lot in schools now and in universities that's being pushed. That's like, oh no, sex positivity is like super great, and and you can't you can't like complain about it, and all of that. So it's basically like the entire push of the culture is towards, oh, I'm just going to randomly hook up because apparently it's a good idea, right?
Oh, come on. But it is also like, these women, they're like swiping right on a Jason. Like, are you telling me there isn't an element, just simple animalistic desire?
Yeah, raw desire. Yeah, of course there is.
So I mean, it's like, it's not just peer pressure. The peer pressure for, you can say, oh yeah, people peer pressure, but they're also doing drugs because of drugs.
Yeah, yeah. But there's also the situation where, if a girl is like told that, Jason Momoa is not all he's cracked up to be, and he's probably not gonna want to date you long term, and he might be an asshole, right, and treat you like shit, so you might not want to hook up with him. Like, if there were parents out there, if there was a culture out there saying, hey, women, be cautious around sex, be cautious around hookups. Everyone should be cautious around hookups, including men, right? Like, it's what I told my boys, right? You hook up with a girl, you use a condom every single time. Not her condom, your condom, the one you brought, right? The one you didn't let out of your sight. You use that. Once you're done, you go in the bathroom, you rinse it out with frickin' hot water, straight hot water from the frickin' tap, okay? And then you throw it in the garbage bin, because if you flush that fucking thing, there's a sewer worker who has to scrape that off a grate somewhere. So
the other thing I wanted to bring up, and that's true, like just practice some
caution.
Don't get too drunk. That's another thing, because this is the scenario that seems to end result most in the most kind of pain, which is getting so drunk you
drunk
can't,
or high, yeah,
you can't, and then getting assaulted by strangers. That applies to men and women. Okay, so what the other thing I wanted to say is, I suppose feminists might argue that it's men that force these laws or these restrictions on women's freedoms. Well, if you want to give women complete freedom and you want to make them more safe, then you need to embrace actual interventions that work, that reduce the rate of male rapists. Okay? But that means you actually have to look at the science rather than the ideology.
Yeah.
So you have to start resurrecting the therapeutic models that were actually doing something that the feminists said, this challenges our ideology, get rid of them.
Yeah.
Like, you got to go back to that. You got to go back to the therapeutic models. You got to go back to you got to start recognizing the harms done to young boys and young teenagers,
adolescent men. Yeah.
Adolescent men who are sexually abused by adult women, and recognizing where rape actually comes from. Not saying that it's something that all men participate in, because that is utter bullshit, and it provides cover for the sociopaths who engage in it. Like, if you're going to say something like, well, men are just rapey because they have high sex, well, what do you think like a sociopath or rape woman? Oh, I couldn't help. And what's she going to say? Well,
I just have a high sex drive. Yeah,
I'm not going to get a better deal because it's just men, right? Feminists told me that's just what men do.
Yeah.
Or even traditionalists in some cases. So, I mean, you got to get rid of all of that. You got to start recognizing how damaging it can be for boys and teenage boys to be sexually abused, while recognizing that most of them won't become rapists. And you got to stop saying to young men with impulse control problems who have been raped by an adult woman that rape is a gift. Like, for love of God, can you not see the hazard in that?
Yeah. No, and also, there was, I forget whether she was in Quebec or Ontario, but there was a researcher who started a program of education for women. It wasn't like self-defense education per se. It was rape prevention education. And it taught them just strategies to say no in a forceful way. Like, if a man was getting too excited, right? You clap twice and say no in that tone, right? And she gave them this education, and she had a control group that didn't get the education. She had her group that did, and she found that there were fewer rapes in her group that got this education, and she was rushed. She was obliterated. It should not be up to women to stop men from raping them.
Well, here's another thing. Well, why not just do one for men too? Clap twice.
I know. Well, we'd have to actually acknowledge that men can be raped by women before we actually venture into that territory. But no, it's like actually learning how to say no in a firm way, right? In a way where you just like, I'm putting my foot down. No. Right? That stops 90%. Like, because you have this situation where like 40 to 50% of young women say that they've said no when they really meant yes. Right? Or try harder. Right? Keep going, convince me. Right? So when you have those games being played by women, Men pick up on that. And so when you're like, no, I shouldn't. Oh, we can't. Oh, we shouldn't. You know, yeah, no, they think that that's just token resistance. That they think that that's just the woman asking to be absolved of responsibility for giving consent because she actually wants it, but she doesn't want to take any responsibility for the act because she's maybe got sexual hang-ups or whatever, right? The reason why women drink themselves, they ply themselves with alcohol in order to like freaking get in the mood and go have sex. But you know, like, so you have these games being played between young men and women, and sometimes when women are doing these subtle things, ooh, ha, 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 no, we shouldn't, we can't, oh, I can't, oh, I have to go, I have to get up early, yeah, no, just say no, just fucking say no. But now now the feminists have started saying that women shouldn't have to say no. They need to give an affirmative yes. And it's like
restricting the window of women's ability to consent to sex.
Oh yeah, no, it's like how the like okay,
basically
let's bring the lawyer into the room and we'll sign the contract.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like doesn't a partner have like a sexual partner, doesn't he or she have a responsibility to clearly communicate the state of their consent?
Yes, both of them.
Because if you think about
it... no, not the state of their consent. I wouldn't say the state of their consent. I would say the state of their rejection of consent or their non-consent.
Regardless of how you state it, if you are in a position to know that your partner's gone from one sex acts to another, which he may not consent to, shouldn't you inform him of that? Like, I mean, no. Seriously, if a woman is like, you've gone from consensual rape, it's going to be, I think, it's going to be quite the man that's able to continue after that.
No. Here's how I think sex should work, and this is how sex has worked for like thousands of years.
Okay? We've all discovered the answer. Okay, let's go.
You start doing stuff because you get the little subtle signals, right? Mm-hmm. You get the little subtle signals, and you know there's an invitation. It might be tacit, whatever. You lean in, you go for the kiss, you go for the arm over the shoulders, right? Touching the face, all of those things, right? You know, you start getting hot and heavy. If you want to stop, you say, we need to stop. You don't say, oh, we shouldn't. You say, we need to stop because I'm not ready. That's what you say. That's how that ends, right? And that researcher in Canada proved that that's how you can stop that situation. Is just by saying,
the gray situation, yeah.
Yeah, we need to stop, right? You need to stop. This needs to stop. And so it's like, it should not be anything like, oh, he should have read her subtle nonverbal cues because, you know, well, her mouth was still bobbing up and down on her dick like that woman from Babe magazine, right? But she stopped moving her hand, and he should have cued in. He should have clued in that meant she didn't want to do it anymore, right?
Okay.
Yeah. No.
That is ridiculous. And what a surprise too when the state of women's consent is clearly communicated. Apparently, most men are like, yeah, no, okay.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely like most men. 99% of men, if you're actually upfront with them, if they're actually faced with somebody, right, including the woman in question who says, yeah, no, this is not okay, right, most men will stop.
Mm-hmm. And those that don't
get in trouble.
Yes. Yeah, and don't be like, oh, I just bullshit. Like if it's a clear and unequivocal consent, he's not going to go forward unless he is actually after your lack of consent.
Yep.
All right, maybe we'll read a little bit more.
Thank yous. You didn't finish doing the thing. You didn't even start doing them, actually.
We don't have any trick-or-treaters, I'm happy to say.
I've had a few, and
I have.
He's slowly understanding the idea.
I don't know whether Sam has. I mean, he bought some Halloween candy. I had a friend over, a pathologist.
Okay, so I got that one.
And he's very together. He's a pathologist and a professor, and he was over the other night, and Sam came home from work, and he's like, "Is there any food?" And I was like, "Well, did you buy anything?" And Sam says, "No, some Halloween candy." And I said, "Well, there's some ice cream in the freezer." And Sam's like, "That's not a meal." And my friend said, "You're the best mom ever." Ice cream and Halloween candy for dinner.
Allison? Are you doing the...
I don't...
She went to go do the thank yous, or did she go get the trick-or-treaters?
She might have gone to deal with trick-or-treaters. I don't have access to the thank yous. So.
All right. No, it's okay. She'll come right back. I got a super chow over here. I guess I could read in the meantime. Anonymous gave us $5 and says, "It was hilarious hearing the feminist meltdown when the female draft was brought up. That's not my feminism," says the ideology that both doesn't have a formal checklist on what is and isn't feminism, and yet somehow also knows how conservative feminists are fakers. There's no such thing as a conservative feminist. Also, I want feminists to make an in-depth video guide teaching men what consent is. Don't hold your breath. I know that they're going to say it's not our job to educate you, except men and incels are going to call their bluff by not approaching women, which they probably shouldn't. Either feminists are going to unanimously go to spoon feed men what consent is, which they won't do, or the quote-unquote patriarchy supporting men and women is going to breed out the feminist decades from now. Yeah, one of the things that feminists love about consent is the ambiguity and how it can get men thrown in jail. So this is why they'll never objectively answer the question. They'll just say, well, it depends on her comfort level, which, of course, no one can really know. And
her state of mind, yeah. No,
yeah,
as an author of dirty books, I had to deal with this, and the rule was there could not be any titillating rape, right? You could not portray a rape as titillating. Oh my fucking God, who the fuck?
Do you want me to do some thank yous?
But you could not present a rape scene in a titillating way, right? But you could do questionable consent, where the man thinks he's raping the woman because she has, at the last second, consented in her own mind and didn't let him know. So she can be struggling the whole time. She can be fighting him off the whole time. But okay,
her inner monologue is basically giving consent.
Yeah, her inner monologue is like, "Oh my God, this is so hot. Okay, I'll let him do it." Right? And so it's like, these are dirty books for women.
Okay. I will point out one thing that makes this. Men can actually.
Where'd she go?
Allison, you broke up.
I'm here.
We didn't catch. Okay. You said men can actually, and then you basically dropped.
Men can smell when women are aroused. Apparently. Yeah. So that makes it a little more complicated. All that courtship, that no but yes stuff is it's just that sexuality is so freaking messy. So if you play that game, then you have to be very clear when you don't consent.
Yeah. Okay,
so Sparhawk03 gives us, hopefully not your legal name, gives us $50. Thank you, Sparhawk03. Oh, and if you guys would like to join, because we're we're in the final stretch. I really appreciate everybody who's helping us out to get there. We do have a little bit left, which is, it's always somewhat concerning, but I appreciate everybody who does support the show. And usually, every month up one, and I'm not saying that it won't happen this one, you guys have pulled through. So if you would like to help make this show happen, feedthebadger.com/support. Our mission is to be absolutely honest about men and women and their relationship, and what they try to figure out what they want from each other, so that we can go forward and heal the relationship, the working relationship between men and women. All right, so Mrs. Anne of Arc gives us $10. Thank you, Mrs. Anne of Arc. Are you doing any sounds?
Yes. Here we go.
Just give me a yes when you're done.
It's afraid!
Oh, I can sort of hear it.
You think you heard it?
Yeah.
It's afraid! It's afraid! Starship Troopers.
Oh, gosh. No idea why you were able to hear that, so...
Probably the echo.
Maybe I was really close to the microphone and it's like playing out of my headphones. So
Yeah,
OKFS,
it was quiet.
OKFS gives us $100. Thank you, OKFS.
Thank you, OKFS. Let me play... What's this? I don't even know what this one is.
To the desert of the real.
All right. That was from The Matrix.
Okay, Silver Bullet gives us $10. Thank you, Silver Bullet.
Thank you, Silver Bullet. All right, go ahead.
Swashberry gives us $50. Thank you, Swash.
Thank you, Swashberry. I'm gonna go ahead and play a different kind of meme or sound for you.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
All right, that's let me see if there's any new. No, there is. Thank you. I will tell you
how close we are.
How close we are. Like I said, this is always a little laggy in the. All right, so we are $970 from the goal. So $970. We're under the 1,000 mark. We're in the final stretch. We're running to the finish line. So please help us out. Please get us over the finishing line at feedthebadger.com/support. Every bit helps. Please take a moment to just go there and ponder your if you would like to help us.
Another wrinkle I just wanted to tell you about. Dr. Ranimer Cam left us a message in the live chat for this stream, and he said, wrap it up and get over here, you guys. I've got Mike-a-roo in the house. So I guess he's doing a live stream with Mike-a-roo.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that is cool, and I would not mind wrapping it up. This article is still like way long.
Yeah, and it's way irrelevant, the rest of it. It's just basically, it's pontificating. Like, they definitely don't have a virtue of shortness with this stuff.
Well, they can't. Have you ever seen their memes? They're like massive
like
walls of text.
The 1,000 word meme. Yeah. Explaining the meme.
Okay,
yeah,
let's
exactly.
let's read this insane paragraph. Woodward sees sex positivity as an antidote to still prevalent rape culture, which trivializes sexual violence. Oh, for the love of God. There's no rape culture. Culture does not accept rape. If it did, rape wouldn't be a crime. They said that a gatekeeper model of sex still exists. Masculine people are encouraged to pursue sex and keep pushing reluctant feminine partners. Hasn't Tinder changed that? I mean, basically, aren't women just dialing up a male sexual partner?
Yeah.
Who are in turn expected to vigilantly guard access, remaining silent about their own desires. Wait, but how are they supposed to guard the access while remaining silent?
Yeah, well, okay, but there are young women out there who don't actually know what they like, and they think that like there was that girl like 18 where I worked, and she was like, they told me the guys told me my boyfriend masturbates. He doesn't masturbate. And I was like, yeah, he does. And she's like, what? How often? I'm like, every day, probably more than once a day. Right? She's like, why? Why would he do that? We have sex. And I'm like, because he can. And he's 21 years old and he can do it. So he's going to do it. And she's like, but, and I'm like, don't you masturbate? She's like, no, ew. And I'm like, well, how do you know what you like? And she's like, he's just supposed to know. And I was like, yeah, he probably doesn't actually know. Because, like, it's your body. Like, figure your body out. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, she's just like, oh, that's just so disgusting. And I'm like, if it's disgusting for you to touch yourself, you should find it disgusting for somebody else to touch you. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Right? Why wouldn't you learn about your own body before you actually like engage in sex with somebody else? Why wouldn't you learn what you like before you get with someone and then just put all the responsibility on him to, like, I don't know, discern by like freaking smoke signals or a crystal ball or some shit, right? What you actually enjoy, right? Like I grow up, be a grown up. You're 18. If you're old enough to have sex. But yeah, no, it's like, it's literally the gatekeeper model is this idea that, you know, women should, and women are the gatekeepers. They are, right? It's just, they are the ones who decide whether sex is going to happen, whether consensual sex is going to happen or whether it's not. And so it's like, they need to actually take responsibility for that role. And take responsibility for their own decisions. Because, like, I get sick of hearing about women, like that woman from Babe magazine, Grace was her pseudonym, right? Oh, well, you know, my mouth was still bobbing up and down on his dick, but I stopped moving my hand and he should have realized. Like, I'm sick of that shit.
Lol.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he should have realized, he should have recognized that non-verbal cue and called a halt to it. And it's like, really? 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 You still stuck in his dick.
Right.
Like,
well,
Jesus
they like the
I guess you can't say no when your mouth is full, but
Heyo. Oh, I didn't finish reading that one, Super Chow, since Allison appears to have stepped away.
No, again. I'm still here. I'm waiting for the...
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to finish reading this because...
this UK study on anal sex.
So, the Anonymous says, either feminists are going to unanimously spoon feed men what consent is, or the quote-unquote patriarchy supporting men and women is going to breed out the feminist decades from now. All right, I did read that, but I thought I hadn't finished it. Okay, now that is done. So, what's next? What are we doing?
No, we should sign off. I have to like order some food for me and my son, and cook some food for my husband, and you know.
How domestic. Okay. Well, I mean, basically the next thing they go in, stuff about anal sex. I'm looking at the study, and
I'm an aficionado, so like,
essentially,
maybe I'll read further
study,
in there.
Just they interviewed like 130 teens, and it's like a qualitative analysis, which is total crap. They didn't even tell us how many of these actually had anal sex or getting on their pulpit and proclaiming that the boys were pressuring the girls into it. Like, yeah, maybe.
Of course it's crap. It's anal sex.
The 1%, this is what's really annoying, that one or two boys will be assholes about it, and then they'll say, well, this is generally indicative of nothing. It's generally indicative of nothing.
No. Anyway. I know plenty of women who like that, including myself. Plenty of men who like that, including the man I'm with. And also plenty of people who don't, both men and women. And like if you like that kind of thing,
the only thing that seemed to show any kind of prevalence is that in the conclusions. Oh, okay. Among those who had anal sex experience, age group referred to physical pleasure in their accounts.
What? You keep cutting off.
Okay, so few young men or women reported finding anal sex pleasurable, and both expected anal sex for women. This study often offers explanations for why anal sex may occur despite this. Okay,
well, because you see porn and everybody looks like they're enjoying it in porn, because that's what porn is, right? It's like people enjoying themselves. So you think that, oh, this will be great. Not necessarily, like not for everybody. Some people like it, some people don't, and it's like,
yeah,
the people who like it, as long as you're careful about it, right? Because nobody likes the idea of fecal incontinence. So as long as you're careful about it, as long as you're, and clean and neat and tidy and all of that, because those girls in the porn videos, they've all had enemas. They haven't eaten for 24 hours. It's like they're going in for a freaking glucose tolerance test, right? And then they have an enema, so that there's nothing there in their system, in their alimentary canal, right? So you have to be careful. You have to keep things, put a towel down or something, like. And
okay, so here's a good paragraph. Women seem to take for granted that they would either acquiesce or or resist their partner's repeated requests rather than being equal partners in sexual decision making. Okay, women are reactive in their generally reactive. So men will do something and they will decide whether or not that is sexual decision making. Okay, can we allow that women have their own autonomy in their way, or does everything have to be judged based on masculinity?
No. This is like when the server at a restaurant comes up to the table and says, "Our daily specials are blah 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 blah," right? And it's like, no thanks. I'm gonna order off the regular menu. That's not being coerced into ordering a daily special unless you're like, oh God, that sounds good, right?
It's not even coercion. It's just like, I'm offering you opportunity of this.
Yeah.
You like it.
I would like this, and you might like it too. So
that's generally how sexuality progresses.
Jesus Christ.
And when you're asking repeated questions to determine consent, that actually in and of itself can be very coercive.
Oh, what's frustrating to me, because like the Title IX stuff and the the sexual harassment and sexual assault policies on campus, right? If you don't get affirmative consent, so verbal consent at every escalation of a sexual encounter, right? If you don't ask and receive consent verbally, right? So can I hold your hand? Can I hold your hand? Can I kiss you? Can I do this? Can I take off your bra? Can I blah, 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 right? Okay. But if you ask for any kind of sexual anything, can I hold your hand? Would you like to go on a date? That actually puts you in violation of the sexual harassment policy. One ask can put you in violation of the sexual harassment policy. Would you like to go out for coffee?
Yeah.
So you're either committing sexual assault or sexual harassment, depending on how she receives the question.
Mm.
Depending on how she feels about you. So it's yeah, no, it is. It's completely untenable, and it's like I'm kind of the mind at this point now. You know, I'm postmenopausal and all that stuff, and I got all my yeah-yeahs out when I was a kid. You know, not when I was a kid, but when I was younger, and all of that. But I'm just like, I don't think most young women are able to handle a free for all. I don't think that they can do that. And like,
okay, here's another bit from this anal sex study. So it does actually indicate that few men and few to be pleasurable. So the men who were engaging with it weren't actually enjoying it either. Which, I mean, there are some who do, but apparently there was quite a few who didn't.
Yeah.
And then it goes on and says, well, women have pressure to conform to a stereotype of heterosexual male fantasy, and yet these guys aren't enjoying it. You know, so it's like, don't they also have pressure to do something that they aren't necessarily enjoying?
Yeah, no, they saw it in porn and they're like, oh, this looks fun. And then they find out, oh, it's not fun. I got poop on my dick.
Yeah, or whatever else. Or maybe she didn't enjoy it because she was in pain.
Yeah.
And so I'm not exactly sure why this study exists. It doesn't have any statistics. So I'm not even sure how you can analyze.
Well, you can analyze the fact that like few young men and few young women actually enjoyed the experience, and it's just like, well, that seems pretty normal. Most people go about anal sex the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like I don't know what the study is making a lot of assumptions based on this list of interviews, which don't make a lot of sense. But anyway, I do have a few thank yous, and then are you going to go talk to Microo, Brian? Because unfortunately.
Well, I'd like to, but it's like it's getting late. I don't know. I got to see if my wife needs anything.
Okay.
And then depending on.
Oh, sounds very domestic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that Lindsay's okay. That's all.
Cam D.
And then I gotta eat something because I'm freaking dying over here.
Cam D for $25. And then David USB Violator, hopefully not your legal name, for $5. Thank you, David USB
Thank you
Violator.
very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
And we are at just give me a second. Thank you for everybody who's supported. I really appreciate it. Once again, if you wish to support, you can go to feedthebadger.com/support. And we are 940. Thanks again for everyone who supports. Please, if you're listening to this after it's gone live, consider going to feedthebadger.com/support and putting a few shekels in that. All right, back to you, Brian.
All right, well, I guess we're heading out. So if you guys like this video, please smash the like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show. Hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams will go live. And most importantly, please share this video because sharing is caring. Once again, please, if you are seeing this later or you know someone that you think might be interested in this kind of content, ask them if they could support us or try to support us yourself by going to feedthebadger.com/support. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fundzerker, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.